Hello, lovely people. Welcome to Laurel and Artistry. I have been gone a lot longer than intended. I'm sorry about that. There were just, a lot of delays, but I can get more into that in a bit. Today, I thought it would be fun, since they are both horse-centric cultures, to reimagine the characters from Rohan, Éowyn, Éomer, and Théoden as Mongol. Now, part of the reason this video was delayed was because I accidentally deleted 10 minutes of time-lapse drawing footage. I decided the most reasonable course of action was to kind of quickly recreate the beginning of the drawing process as best I could without having to redraw the entire thing. It obviously isn't as detailed and it skips some steps, but at least I have a first half of my video. I couldn't spend too much time on the clothing research portion of my video, so I'm not going for everything being consistent to one particular time period or anything. I just wanted everything to look recognizably Mongolian. I unfortunately didn't draw any swords or bows or anything. It would have been fun, but this drawing was going to take long enough, as it was, and I'm not very good at drawing weapons. I went largely with the color scheme the characters have in the films, but because I want them to look Mongolian, I made their hair darker than the golden color it should be. Though I didn't make it completely black either, I made it kind of a lighter brown as a compromise. Although Théoden, since he has some gray in his hair, it does look lighter. I get the coloring all done and now time to shade. The shading for this is quite subtle, so I hope you're able to see it well enough, and it won't get too boring. So anyways, between moving in December and Christmas, it was just kind of hard to fit a video in, but I was going to try my best to do so. That is, until my iPad screen cracked. So dealing with that set me back quite a bit, and is the main reason it took me so long to get a video out. I was going to do a Christmas-themed one, but of course scrapped that once it got too late. And since I'd been wanting to depict the people of Rohan this way for a long time, it's what I went with. Obviously, there are a good number of differences between the Rohirrim and the Mongols, but they are both horse-riding warrior cultures, and I grew up in Mongolia, so I'm a bit biased. Of course, I wanted Éomer's armor to look like a Mongol warrior, but still have hints of his Rohirrim armor from the films. And I took inspiration for Éowyn's dress from the white one that she wears with the brown vest and skirt over the top. It would have been fun to put Éowyn in a fancier Mongolian headdress, but she seems a bit too simple in her style for that. I did give Théoden a quite recognizably Mongolian hat though, and they're all in the traditional style of boots. After the shading, I start on the details, like the designs for the brocade fabrics generally used for their traditional dress. I try to mostly utilize patterns that they have on their clothing in the films to help with association to the characters. The pattern on the brown part of the dress, and also the trim around the bottom, are things from Éowyn's belt. On the boots, I think that might be a mix of a Mongolian design and something from the Rohirrim armor. And on the white part of the dress, I did a flower pattern reminiscent of you know, those white flowers that Theoden says grow on the graves. Now for the thinner gold trim, I use a design that's on the trim of her brown vest. I also put some sort of gold detail on the brown strip of trim, for the sake of texture, but you can't really see any detail. Now I add the buttons. And then I add a bit of detail to her hair, and make her cheeks a tad rosier. Now to add a bunch of tedious stitching details to Éomer's armor. Add some swirly patterns that he has on his chest circle thing. He's got a green brocade under his armor with a sun design that some of the Rohirrim banners and shields have on them. And on the trim is a pattern from the border of their flag. On the top of the boot is a fairly Mongolian type pattern. But for the rest of it, I used a horse design from the Rohirrim armor that's on his shin guard thing in the films. The horse was the hardest thing to draw. I'm not the best at drawing horses or armor, so a horse in armor was a pain. Théoden's trim is basically all based on the styles of the trim he has on his clothes in the films. This wide trim having, you guessed it, a horse motif. Color in all the little horses red. Now do the rest of the trim. At this point, I was a tad tired of coming up with patterns to draw, but I noticed the material for many of the men's Mongolian dolls I've seen have cloud patterns. I'm not sure if this signifies anything, but I thought it looked cool, so I borrowed that for Theoden's outer robe. I put the design that Theoden has on his brooch in the films on his belt instead, and then copy that design over on either side. Give that a bit more texturing and then add a gem to the middle. Draw some horses on the side of that, they're very subtle. And now for his buttons. We're approaching the end of the detailing, and I put some horse designs, like ones that are on some Rohan banners, on his boots. Add a tad of gold stitching to his hat. And now hair details. And rosy cheeks. I add in a thicker outline around them. And now for a very simple background. I did have the idea of trying to figure out how to convert Edoras into looking Mongolian with gers and such, but that was just too much work, so I stuck with a plain landscape. Draw in some grass detail for texture. Tiny trees. Adjust the coloring. Put some grass in the foreground. And there you go. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll check out more of my videos if you haven't already. I hope I won't take as long for my next video. I shouldn't, but you never know. In the meantime, remember to practice your horseback archery. Ciao!